So I'm interested to know, I've always wanted to ask Nat to this, when you're kind of doing kind of action scenes in a comedic space, is that quite a difficult balance to get right? Because I guess for you, you've got to be funny and be comedic, but at the same time, the stakes have got to remain quite high. What are those kind of moments and sequences like to shoot?
Man, so that's a really good question. I think the overall circumstance, because I think humor is always like 1 inch to the left. No matter what. And you can be in the most dramatic, I think humor is a little bit harder, not because it's harder to achieve, but you have to have a lot of awareness. But once you have the awareness, like I said, you move 1 inch to the left, it's comedy, right? And that's where we were. Like these people are, it's life or death, it's love at stake, it's, history at stake, and then you move 1 inch to the left and it's hilarious, right? So having that kind of awareness is what kind of keeps it happening.
Because your character's got a bit of a sort of encyclopedic knowledge of film in this, and he's obviously able just to reel off kind of quotes. Are you quite a film buff? I know a lot of
I am.
Yeah. Do you have any kind of quotes that always sort of some of your favourites? But is that a big passion, not just in terms of acting, but in terms of like the studying of movies?
Absolutely. So I studied a lot of movies during COVID. I ended up sitting down, and I'll just pick either an actor or a director, and I'll just work through their entire film work. So during COVID, with my family, I would sit and I would just watch, say, Sylvester Stallone's, all of his movies, and I'll watch them in sequence from like his first thing and then watch how they evolved as creatives. Arnold Schwarzenegger, I watched, like just all these people. And it was really interesting to watch the narratives that they were kind of curating, and then the conversations with audiences, whether they were intentional or not, that they were having throughout their career. So that always fascinates me.
Was there any particular discoveries that you found during that time?
Yeah, I actually understood the difference between Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger in the 80s and 90s. And Arnold, how I would articulate it is, Arnold was playing, there's a deity, there's a war god inside me, and even though I'm disguised as any of these characters, there's still this like deity that's fighting to get out, right? So Arnold was like, if you look at Conan the Barbarian, it's like, I'm this set adrift, like barbarian in the barbarian world, but the gods have chosen me to be this special, like singular character. Same thing with, Terminator. He's like this kind of almost deity coming back in time to like change history. And then if you look at Mr. Mom, right? Mr. Mom is, I'm the first one to give birth, right? I'm this guy, and I'm, so even, what's the other one there where he's like the dad and they kidnap his daughter and he has to like...
Kindergarten Cop.
Well, even that, but it's God. He's the dad, and like he's like a military dude, and he goes and he fights everybody.
I can't remember.
All right, but that's him. He's like a god on the inside, and like on the outside, I'm just the dad, or I'm just this guy who works at a place. But like, if you mess with me, the god is gonna come out. And then the same thing with Sylvester Stallone is like he is the guy who is next door, right? Turned into the greatest thing ever. So he's like the god from Jersey. And that's from New Jersey. And that's the big difference with him, is that he is more of an everyman, and then Sylvester Stallone is more of like, it's the difference between Marvel and DC, kind of, yeah.
I'm going to have to go back and watch all of their back catalogues now.
Yeah,
see really a new
cool
perspective. As someone who obviously you mentioned, obviously you've got a real love for the passion for the craft, so obviously, and characters are a big part of it. Facts. I can tell from speaking to you. Yeah. You obviously got Marcus Garvey coming up as an actor to play a character of that historical significance. I mean, I'm assuming you're kind of in the process of doing that. How is it to kind of step into the shoes of a role like that?
So my approach to like characters, I love movies, and I studied like what makes movies effective. Is when I think of iconic people, I think of, okay, great, we have tons of communal knowledge of these big characters. So it's not as interesting learning about the great things that they've done. It's really interesting in learning what the small human things that they've done. It's like, I don't, like Martin Luther King as an icon and his iconography isn't as attractive to me as like what he had for breakfast and how he actually managed his relationships with while balancing this. It's like, this is really important. And then when you're thinking of your everyman, it's not interesting as much as to watch him have breakfast. It's what turns him into that icon. What is the thing that drove him to be remembered? What's that thing that drives them to be that Greek god? You know what I mean? To be that deity. Like, what is it that is in all of us as everyman that makes our life that important that you should put a camera on it? And I think figuring that out. So when you're looking at a Marcus Garvey, it's really important to see what the humanity is, right? Because we all know what the branding was. So we understand we need to see the humanity, and that's the things that we focus on.
Cool. Can't wait to see it. Thank you so much for your time today.
Absolutely.
Cheers. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey, you guys!
Hey, you guys!
Hey, that's what they all say.
Hey, you guys!
Hey,